Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our virtual open evening. My name is Mark Pritchard. I'm the Executive Head Teacher here at Trevelyan Middle School, and I am really excited to be holding this live Q&A session for you. I'm really disappointed, however, that I can't welcome you all to our fantastic school so you can walk our corridors, meet our students, and see our classrooms and staff. But having said that, I hope that this evening we'll be able to give you all the information that you need to be able to make some decisions around which school will be right for your child. And I know you have questions, and I know that we aim to be able to answer all of them by the end. I would say, first of all, that I'm not alone. I'm joined by a fantastic team of people who are also going to help me tonight and I want you to know their faces and know who they are. We have a fantastic team at Trevelyan. The whole staff are fantastic, but we do have, in particular tonight, the Deputy Head, Miss Lane.
Hi everybody, it's such a pleasure to have you all here with us this evening. I'm Deputy Head and responsible for curriculum, assessment and pupil outcomes. First joined Trevelyan nearly 13 years ago as a math teacher, and now as Deputy Head I couldn't be more proud of our achievements, our wonderful pupils, and to help lead and teach at such an exciting and forward-thinking school.
Hi everyone. Sorry, Mark, I've jumped in there. Hi everyone. I'm Andy Murdoch, so I'm Deputy Head at Trevelyan Middle School, and I've just joined this year, which is fantastic. So many of the questions that I've seen you pose have all been questions that I've been interested in over the course of the last 6 months or so. It's been a fantastic start to my time here. I feel incredibly welcomed by all of the staff and all of the students. And I look forward to seeing many of you soon in person. Thank you.
Okay, and I am Brad Day. I'm Assistant Head Teacher, and I joined 6 years ago as Head of English for the first few years, and then took over as Assistant Head, responsible for culture, behaviour, SEM, pupil wellbeing, and some other areas as well. And it is a truly special place, and it's really thrilling to give you a little taste of that tonight, I hope.
Fantastic. Thank you, everyone. So this is the team. We're going to be answering your questions, and I know that we've had some questions already sent in to us by some parents, so we're going to start with some of those. So I don't know, Mr. Murdoch, do you have any questions ready to begin with?
Yeah, of course. So thank you to everyone that submitted their questions in advance. What we've done is we've grouped those questions together into broad areas of school life, and what we'll do is each of us will respond to those questions, not necessarily with the specifics, but within the themes of the questions that you've received. So I'll now pass on to Mr. Pritchard, who will respond to the questions around mission, vision and values.
Fantastic, thank you, sir. So yes, we had a number of questions around what the mission and the values of the school were, and I wanted to give you a really clear answer to that question. Actually, lots of schools have, grandiose statements about, verbose mission statements, about what they aim to achieve. We have a very straightforward mission. I'm going to tell you what it is, and then I'm going to explain it. So our mission is to empower successful lifelong learners who are motivated and inspired by their enriching curriculum. And we do this by igniting curiosity, inspiring challenge, and delivering and developing resilience to nurture kind, socially responsible, forward-thinking learners with ever-expanding horizons. And that sentence drives everything that we do. We go back to it frequently. It helps us to make decisions, and it also helps us to plan all of the things that we do at the school for our pupils. And our values linked to those things, I mentioned them within the sentence. Our values are very straightforward. We have 4. And we live and breathe them every day. They are forward thinking, resilience, curiosity and social responsibility. So on forward thinking, we believe in being forward thinking in terms of education, but also forward thinking for your child. We know that they're going to go on to be the leaders of tomorrow. And quite frankly, as head teacher, I want those children to grow into adults that will deal with the problems of the 21st century better than I've dealt with it, and better than you've dealt with it. I want them to be a generation that able to solve some of the big questions of humanity, from climate change and Brexit and coronavirus to all the other things that we don't even know about yet. I also, therefore, need to plan a curriculum that engages them and teaches them things beyond not only the core subjects of maths and English, but also helps them to become really great, well-rounded people. And we know that if they're going to be tackling challenges within their education, and education and learning is hard, we accept that. We know that they're going to need resilience. We know that they're going to have to develop the skills of persevering when things are difficult. And we've certainly seen that, and we all as a human race have experienced that in the last 6 months, that skill of resilience. Some have dealt with it better than others, and we want to build that core skill, that strength in all of our children. Curiosity, I think, is the thing that really brings learning alive. So curiosity, for me, is the passion of the child. And frankly, teachers ask a lot of questions. I want them to ask a lot of questions, but really, I want children to be asking more questions than teachers. I want them to be really passionate and interested in the subjects that they study. And I want them to not only be able to learn independently, but also with others. And that leads me on to the very final value of social responsibility. Frankly, it's not good enough to learn just for your own sake. It's not good enough to learn maths and learn how to read and write and keep that as a private good. I think education is a public good, and social responsibility is applying those skills, that knowledge, to the service of the world, to make the world and our communities a better place. So even within our middle school, we have opportunities where pupils are able to engage with our wider community, with the school community, and learn through those experiences. Education is much more than outcomes in reading and writing and maths. Education is really about that whole child being a fantastic human being, and that's what our mission and values is all about. And believe me when I say, some organisations, this is just words on a page, it's laminated on a poster. Yes, we have all those things, but we live and breathe these things every single day in every single lesson, and we bring them to life through our fantastic staff and through, frankly, our fantastic children. And I'm really disappointed you won't be able to meet our children tonight, because one of the best things about Open Evening is when you get to see this for yourself. The children are the real embodiment of that mission and those values. So that's what our mission and values are all about. That's our vision for education, and we're unapologetic about it. We know that that's what makes successful students, that we know that that's what makes for a successful education and prepares them for future life.
Thank you, Mark. So the next set of questions were around admissions, which I'll respond to now. Thank you for these questions, and I completely appreciate the questions that you're raising. Now, many of those were in the scenario where the number of applicants for places exceeds the number of places that we have available. So I'll talk through and respond to those questions in that scenario. So what we're talking about here is our PAN, it's our published admissions number, and that's 150 for the incoming year group and the year groups that are currently in school as well. So when the number of applicants exceeds 150, what we will then do is then apply what we call an oversubscription criteria. Now, this is available to you on the website in a document called the admissions arrangement. So I certainly won't go through each of those criteria in detail, but it may help answer some of the more specific queries and questions that were raised. So the order of the oversubscription criteria is what we use to then allocate places. And there were questions about the particular order that we have on our arrangements, why we have certain things at certain places. We are a community school. We serve our local community. We are a local school in that sense, and that's why there were some queries raised about where siblings fell on the oversubscription criteria. But because we are a local school serving our local community, that is why we have catchment area above siblings in our criteria. There were a number of questions about distance. Now, distance is different to catchment area, and I think it's important to recognise that. But distance is only actually applied when in what is termed as a tiebreaker. So if within a certain criterion there are more applicants than the number of places, then and only then does it go by distance. And there were some questions about what that furthest distance was in the previous 2 years, and I'll give you those distances for the previous 3 years. So in that situation where places had been filled and went to a tiebreaker where it was judged by distance, last year that furthest distance was 1.6 miles. In 2 years before, that was 1.9 miles. Now, whilst that may give you some indication of how far the distance is for our students, we have to be cautious about how you use that information. We have absolutely no idea of knowing who's going to apply this year and how many students will meet other subscription criteria. So please do view those as with caution, because there is no way of us knowing what that information will be in the years ahead. But that was requested by a few people, so we want to share that with you. The last thing is to just make you aware of the waiting list that we hold. So once all places have been allocated, any remaining applicants will be placed on a waiting list, and we hold that till the 31st of December. The order of the waiting list is based on that oversubscription criteria, not on when the application was made. There were some quite specific questions around different areas, but the distances that I shared earlier and the emissions arrangements will answer those questions rather than me delve into the specifics now. So there's the questions that we had around admissions. So thank you again for those. The next set of questions were around curriculum, and I'm going to pass over to Kelly.
Thank you, Mr. Murdoch. So the first question that we received was a question asking about if a child shows a particular aptitude or interest for a subject, then how would we nurture and expand that further? So the way in which we structure our school lends itself to this perfectly. From year 5, each curriculum area is taught by a specialist subject teacher. And due to this level of expertise and subject knowledge, our teachers identify pupils with particular interests or a flair for the subject, and will then nurture this directly through their teaching. But we also offer extracurricular provision in each area of the curriculum. And this can be in the form of an after-school club or a lunchtime club, but we pride ourselves on deepening the learning experiences during the school day. And some examples of this will be how we enrich our curriculum through trips and so on. And we link all of these trips and experiences to the lesson content with the purpose of developing the breadth of experience. A second question that we received was a question regarding year 5 ability groups, and will we be setting children in particular subjects? So the way in which we do this is prior to year 5, the children arriving, they'll be allocated a form group, and they will stay in this group for all of their lessons apart from maths. The pupils are then assessed by their teachers, and we use a cognitive ability test which measures pupil potential. From this, the children will then be grouped into their maths sets accordingly, and will be grouped for maths. So we do not set for other subjects, and the reason why is that we've conducted a lot of research to support our decision, and we feel that maths is really the best subject to be able to set with, but the other subjects benefit from a mixed ability style of teaching. The next question that we received was regarding our homeschooling approach during lockdown, and what might we do differently next time. So our home learning during lockdown, we could probably split into two categories: the off-site provision and then the on-site provision. And in the initial stages of lockdown, we used a system called Edmodo, which enabled us to be able to share work, but also receive the work back from the children and give feedback. It also enabled us to be able to continue dialogue with the pupil and the teacher. We realised as time went by and that parents and children needed some more time with a teacher or support staff, and therefore we introduced our off-site bubbles. This is where we would make check-in calls, weekly check-in calls to a family, and spend time talking to the children and the parents and keeping a focus and close eye on their well-being. Following government guidance, we created a timetable for the children and made the learning topic-based so that we could cover all of the curriculum and present it to the children located in one place so that it was easy to use for the children and for the parents. What we learned from this and what we will take forward with this is that we need to consider a balanced approach with a variety of materials such as video lessons, voiceover lessons, and possibly live lessons depending on the situation. But something that we definitely will continue with is the use of check-in calls to ensure that the well-being of our pupils and our parents are at the forefront. Okay, I believe that is the end of the curriculum questions that we received, so I shall hand back to Mr. Murdoch.
Thank you, Kelly, and I will hand straight back over to Mr. Day to answer the questions around culture.
Fantastic. So we have a question about about well-being and pupil well-being, and do we place a focus upon it? And absolutely we do. It is at the very heart of everything we do at Trevelyan is around pupil well-being. It comes first. It is number one. And as Mr. Pritchard has already said, it completely is integrated into our value of social responsibility. Something Mr. Pritchard said, which stuck with me from what he said a few moments ago, is at Trevelyan, these values of social responsibility, and when we talk about things like well-being, they're not just words on a document, they're not just things that are laminated to the board. And this could not be truer than when it comes to social responsibility. And what I'd urge you to look at, if you want some evidence of this, is a really moving video that's on our open day provision from our head pupil, Isaac. And Isaac talks about his own journey through Trevelyan. He also shows you around the school, but he talks from his own emotional journey through Trevelyan, from turning up as a self-described, very anxious child, lacking in confidence, never dreaming of being that head boy in 3 years' time, and now being our fantastic head boy and having the guts and the boldness to talk, which is a rare talent, about that journey he has gone on. So if you want a bit more about what it really looks like to the children and a chance to meet at least one of them, do watch that video. But when we talk about pupil well-being, that will show you how much for a long time we have placed a focus upon it. But we also know that at this particular time, with the COVID crisis and everything that has gone on, that it is even more important we make it an absolutely pivotal part of every single thing that we've done. And we stick with two principles. First of all, we know that the experience of 2020 and even the ongoing issues will have affected every single pupil, not just some, and therefore all pupils need the space and the time to respond to their social and emotional needs and to improve on their social and emotional learning. But we're also aware that some pupils will have had trickier experiences this year and may still be having trickier experiences and require that greater extent of social and emotional provision. So we always operate and are operating on those two principles, that social and emotional learning is for everyone, but some may require more targeted support. And that's the mode that we work with. I want to just talk very briefly about a particular approach we have taken forward in September, and it's something we're taking forward on a cross-trust level. And we're inspired by the work of Dr. Mark Brackett in his book Permission to Feel, and I well recommend ordering that and having a read if you want to get to grips with how we do things at Trevelyan. And he introduces concepts and tools that can really help the pupils to better express their emotions, be more open about them, better describe them, but also understand them on a fundamental level so they can not only be happier and more successful now, but for their future years. And we're also trying to get them to inspire that openness, that emotional understanding into our wider parent and carer community as well. So we take an integrated approach with this. It's not something we just do for an hour or 20 minutes a week. We integrate it into what is most important, the tutor relationship. And it's that tutor relationship that guides everything we do at Trevelyan. That form tutor will be the most important person in your child's life while they're here at Trevelyan. And you'll hear Isaac talk particularly movingly about his fantastic experience in his tutor group in his video. And every Monday begins at the moment with a focus on social and emotional learning. But this is then deepened with an hour of PSHE every week, where currently they are focusing and linking everything they do to that social and emotional well-being. But we're further supported in this work with our fantastic team of senior prefects. And this year we have introduced well-being prefects, forward-thinking well-being prefects that are going to be role modelling some of that emotional expression and healthy ways to manage our emotions that we are teaching them in the classroom. So it's an integrated approach. It's a priority for us, and it has always been a priority, but now more than ever before. There was a question that touched also on transition, and while I would say that social and emotional learning is the absolute guide to how we approach transition, actually what we've done for this year is we've thought of all pupils as effectively retransitioning, and we've placed a focus on every pupil's transition back into school. How do we manage transition though? And that was the question that we got asked from a couple of parents, in fact. First of all, we talk about establishing a real sense of team from the moment that they walk through those gates. We know that it is a very big deal for them coming from often one form entry schools, tiny schools in some cases, to our rather larger school. And all the middle schools are much larger. And therefore, that sense of team and belonging is absolutely crucial, absolutely pivotal. And so we have some ways we address this. One is our fantastic house system. It's a pupil-led house system, which means our heads of house are not staff members, they are pupils in year 8. And our deputy heads of house, they are pupils in the 7, 6 and 5 year groups. Now that sense of house joins the school together vertically from day one. So whatever house they are in, they have a sense of belonging to the wider house through healthy competition and through other creative activities. We also have a great deal of pupil leadership beyond the house system. Our team of prefects are always there on hand to support pupils from day one. Obviously, at the moment, we have our bubble system, which does mitigate that a slight bit, but in normal circumstances, and we can't wait to get back to this, we get those prefects not only out in the playground leading sporting activities, but also into the classroom supporting those younger learners. So it's a real team effort transition between staff and between pupils. And the final thing I would say about transition is this: it doesn't stop on September the 1st. It continues, and we have a fantastic group of year 5s in right now, and they are having a fantastic time. It's wonderful to see how well they have integrated into our school and our systems, having had a difficult experience themselves. But we are still very mindful that this group is new to the school and that there are questions they will still have. So we keep our transition strategy in place, our transition focus in place all across year 5. It doesn't stop on September the 1st. Okay. I had another question about SCN as well, which I'll just take now, if that's okay with Mr. Murdoch. So we got asked a question about inclusion and how we include or remove SCN pupils from lessons, and whether we provide targeted groups and so forth. The truth is, our philosophy is all about inclusion in lessons. And so the simple answer is we have all of our pupils together in lessons. We teach in mixed ability for all subjects except maths, because we know that the research tells us that is where all pupils learn the best. And that includes our pupils with special educational needs or other learning barriers. And we have some fantastic success stories that I can't go into now, but some fantastic success stories of pupils with some of high level needs who have had an amazing journey at Trevelyan and have gone on to do just simply amazing things afterwards in their upper schools. So the inclusive approach that we advocate, that we practice, simply works. How does it work? Well, number one, we take our what's known as our continued professional development very, very seriously. That is our staff training, the investment we place in staff's constant development and training in skills. And therefore, we only recruit staff who have an active commitment, the right attitude to want to constantly, no matter what their experience, invest in the new research, get to grips with new developments. And so they are constantly working on their practice. And a lot of that does focus on those pupils with higher level needs. So I can hopefully reassure you that in a mixed ability classroom with our fantastic team of teachers, your child, if they do have those additional needs, will not only be perfectly safe, they will have a thriving, fantastic time. However, we do, of course, have some targeted interventions that do exist where we identify a particular skill. We are very mindful that to remove a child from that mainstream curriculum is not a step we take lightly, and so we only use evidence-based interventions that are addressing a particular skill, whether it is a reading element or a writing element, a mathematical element, or also whether it's part of our interventions we have in place for our social and emotional learning. But we evaluate these thoroughly, and we always liaise with parents in the process to ensure we're working together to put what is right for your particular child's needs. We also, and it'd be so wrong to say, we have a fantastic team of learning support assistants, and the majority of their work takes place within those mainstream lessons. And at Trevelyan, we don't only invest in our teachers' continued training, but all of our support staff. And one of the brilliant changes we have made in recent years is we have placed our learning support assistants into subject areas so that they are gaining the subject expertise, and they really are subject experts as well, so they are best placed to support your child. And they are doing an absolutely fantastic job. If you were here on a normal open evening, they would be a fantastic team to meet, and they'll be people who our children, no matter what their abilities or learning needs, have a brilliant relationship. They really are fantastic people. So that is all from me. I'll speak to you later, I'm sure, but thank you very much.
Thank you, Brad. So they are the questions that were sent through in advance, but of course, as we're seeing, as we're looking at our screens here, there are questions being sent through for you now, which is fantastic. So Miss Lane has been keeping a close eye on those questions. So if I can pass over to you, Miss Lane, and then we will help out with the responses where we can.
We have received quite a few questions, so we will take our time to pick them and go through them as we go. Okay, so a key question that's been coming up is about how many places that we have for Year 5 available. So Mr. Murdoch, would you like to be able to answer that question as it's referring to admissions?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. So yes, 150 is our published admission number. We are named by many more students on the CAF form, and we have a waiting list. I believe there was a question about waiting lists. So yes, we do have a significant waiting list, which is a sign of the strength of the school. So hopefully that answers questions related to that.
Okay. The next set of questions, so I've just summarised them into different categories, is regarding where the pupils go on from us when they leave. So this is about the destinations of pupils when they leave. So we see a variety of children going to different places, mainly to the upper school system of Windsor Boys and Windsor Girls. However, we do have children that transfer to Hollyport at the start of Year 7, and that some move to charters as well. We also have a small proportion that do move on to the grammar school system, but it is quite varied at when those children do go, and we do have some leave at the end of Year 8 when they finish with us at middle school, and then they will move on to the grammar school system in this sense as well. Okay. We have a question on our modern foreign languages. So Would Mr. Pritchard like to answer this question? Do we teach German, or what are our focus for modern foreign languages?
Yeah, certainly. So I don't know if you know, but my background is languages. I'm a real passionate advocate for language learning. I think it's a real feature of a successful education and a successful school. Currently at Trevelyan Middle School, we offer French to our students. They all study French, and we have a fantastic subject expert in that area. They will hopefully develop the linguistic abilities, but also the cultural knowledge that enables them to be able to engage with the global world. Certainly on the question of German, we don't currently teach German at the school. Unfortunately, I think nationally, German is also it's quite a difficult subject these days in schools. You don't see it as frequently as you did. I certainly studied German when I was at school, but I know that other schools don't teach it as frequently, which is a shame. I absolutely agree. But French is our main foreign language, which everyone has access to.
Thank you, Mr. Pritchard. A number of questions surrounding what resources and what support we put in place for our pupils with special educational needs, and requesting information on how to contact our SENCO. So I shall pass that question to Mr. Day.
So I think it's important to say we have a fantastic SENCO at the school, but she sits in a wider inclusion team, and we work as we expect our children to, very collaboratively. So we also have a pastoral manager that looks after pupils' well-being. We have a well-being coordinator that targets pupils that might have higher needs and etc. So we're part of a big team, but if you want to get in touch with the SENCO directly about any particular concern or issue you have, then you simply email the school office, fantastic office team, and they'll put you in touch with the right person. Any further questions on special educational needs, Mrs. Lane?
No, you've covered it there, Mr. Day.
Excellent.
Okay, our next question will be looking into the teacher ratio, so teacher to pupil ratio in year 5, and I can answer that one. It's a quick one. It is roughly at the moment 1 to 30. Sometimes this can be lower, but we work on the basis of 1 to 30. Okay, we have some particular questions around what sporting we offer at school, so sports activities, and if we encourage children to take part in sports depending on their interests in different things. So what I would say here is that we pride ourselves on the ability to engage pupils in an exciting curriculum, both academic and creative, and the types of sporting activity that we would encourage it ranges throughout every aspect of PE that you can imagine. So from ball skills to tennis, to badminton, to volleyball, to girls rugby, to boys rugby, football, games. We follow the national curriculum for PE, and we offer an extensive provision of after-school activities as well, and lunchtime clubs. And as Mr. Day said, if you check out some of our videos on the website, you will see a reference to the sports leader provision, where our year 8 children become sports leaders and lead the school with that sporting with that competitive edge, and with the purpose of supporting our younger pupils to develop their physical ability. Okay. We have a question on admissions again, referring to over the last few years, have we had an extensive waiting list, and how many appeals have likely to have gone through? Mr. Murdoch, would I be able to get you to respond to that for me, please?
Yeah, I'm just going to find the question. Okay, so yeah, as I said earlier, yes, we are oversubscribed, so we do hold a waiting list. With regards to appeals, I don't have that information with me right now as we speak, but yes, we do have more applicants than the number of places that we have available, and we hold a waiting list for our year groups as well.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Murdoch. So another question about the setting of Year 5 children when they arrive, and it's linked to the transition and whether the children will be able to choose their friendship groups or to keep friends with them when they arrive in September. So, Mr. Day, would you like to give some information about the process of how we create the form groups? Thank you.
Absolutely. So we seek to create really well balanced form groups, but we also know that coming to a much bigger school is a really big deal and potentially scary no matter what middle school you're going to. So we do on the forms that they'll fill in when they transition to the school, allow them to pick some friends they want to be with, and then to the very best of our ability, we do place priority on at least allowing them some friends within that tutor group, as well as some other new opportunities to meet other people as well. So the simple answer is yes, we do take friendship requests and we take them seriously, and we try to use those to form, not only based on friendships, but also a range of other factors, really well balanced tutor groups. And as I say, when you walk around our Year 5s now, honestly, you would not be able to tell who was friends before. It's formed so quickly, and that is due to the focus, as I said before, we place on teamwork. So the answer is yes, but they'll also meet many, many other friends, and we'll make it our business to enable them to make many other friends as soon as they've arrived.
Excellent. Thank you, Mr. Day. Thank you. Some questions regarding how we cater for the more able. So we cater for the more able by offering challenge in all aspects of the curriculum, in all aspects of everything that we offer, including the way that we enrich the different activities throughout the day. Now, this doesn't just mean added activities for the children as in an extension task. What we mean by supporting the more able is that we look to extend pupil thinking, we look to expand pupil thinking, and we look to develop the mastery and depth of learning. So it's not necessarily about increasing knowledge and piling upon knowledge on top of one thing to the next. It's about expanding that breadth of curriculum and that breadth of knowledge as we go forward. Okay. Would anybody like to add to my answer there? Okay, next question. Okay, so please would we be able to explain a little bit about the school clubs that are on offer? So, Mr. Murdoch, would you be able to answer this question for me?
Yep, certainly, but please feel free to jump in. So there's a question about Wednesday afternoon provision, which I'll add to this as well. Now, in the current circumstances, our priority is, of course, to make sure that the whole community, staff, students and parents remain safe. Now, that obviously has an impact on what we can offer outside of school, and that has to take priority. So at the moment, frustratingly for us as staff and for parents and students, I'm sure we are not able to offer the provision that we have done previously. But that is, we hope, very temporary, and we can get back to the extremely strong provision that we've had, not just around sport. I know a number of questions that come up about sport, which is fantastic because that's my area of passion. And just one note on that, one of the things that unfortunately you've not been able to see is the facilities that are available here, particularly around sport. There is a full-court sports hall, a very recently laid set of tennis courts, and a very, very large field. So for someone like me as a PE teacher, and any of you interested in sport, that is something that is a real asset for the school, completely utilised through various different clubs, ranging from a very broad set of sports. One thing that is important to the PE department here and in their work with the partnership is that students are not sort of narrowed into football and netball, for example. Breadth is very, very important. And one of the things that we aim to do at the school, and particularly through those sports clubs, is to cater for students' engagement and physical activity and enjoyment, but also where there is a particular interest, we then look to move towards competitive inter-school fixtures, which the school has been extremely successful with in the past.
I think if I just
Yeah, please do. Yeah.
And just as Mr. Murdoch said, obviously it goes far beyond sport as well, and that covers a range of areas. But one area I just wanted to also flag was performing arts, which has long been a historic passion and real success of Trevelyan. So we're quite famous, I believe, for our annual production. That's a musical production, and we've done everything from Hairspray to Mary Poppins to Legally Blonde Junior. So it's been a really eclectic mix over the years, and it was sad we didn't get to do that last year, but we are ready when we're able to do that. So we have a fantastic performing arts department, fantastic Christmas concerts every year that really broaden participation. And one of the brilliant things, a lot of you have asked about encouraging pupils into sport, and the same with performing arts. We have pupils, boys and girls, who had never dreamed they would be on that stage in year 8 in a lead role, and before they know it, they are there, and they have upskilled themselves, doing an absolutely amazing job. It's been one of the most sort of beautiful, inspiring things of being at Trevelyan is seeing those performances. And this year, with the current circumstances, they are doing some work on some video-based performances, so we can share those hopefully with the world in due course. So look out for those on our website.
Thank you, Mr. Day. And just to add on to that, we have a wealth of peripatetic teachers that come in and deliver our music tuition for various instruments. So we have a classical approach with Berkshire Maestros, where we will learn the classical instruments, orchestral instruments, but we also have Rock Steady and Rock Academy that come in and deliver individual lessons with guitar, drum kit, percussion, bass, keyboards, and also a group style approach as well, where we can work as a rock band, which is absolutely fantastic, and we have a considerable take up of those clubs. Great. Okay, so a couple of questions coming in regarding the leadership structure of the school, and Mr. Pritchard, your plans to take the school forward. So I shall hand over to you for those questions. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. So first of all, you can probably already see how fantastic the leadership of the school is through the people that have just been answering your questions. I'm really proud to be the executive head teacher at the moment, which means that I am looking after both Upton Court Grammar School and Trevelyan Middle School. I do split my time pretty much at the moment 50-50, and I try to be everywhere I possibly can for all the events that I need to be at, and also to be in lessons and to be student facing, as well as to meet parents, although some of those activities that I would normally engage in have been scuppered by COVID. But having said that, it's been fantastic to get to know the Trevelyan community really well. One thing that you might not know is that I've been involved in the school development for a number of years. The school is part of a trust, it's Pioneer Educational Trust, so it's worked with both Upton Court Grammar School and Foxborough Primary School. Together we have been working on lots of the things that you've heard this evening, lots of the strategies, the policies, the practices. We do have alignment across our schools, and that's one of the real benefits, I think, of working in that collaborative way. It means that we can do enhanced professional development for teachers. It means that we can do leadership development opportunities and also retain those fantastic teachers that we know are key to the success of the pupils. The current structure is me as executive head teacher. We then have Miss Lane, who you've been hearing from, as deputy, and Mr. Murdoch currently as deputy too. Mr. Day has been talking to you as assistant head, and the team has never been more collaborative. We've worked for a number of years together, but it's really great to be leading that team. Genuinely, they are really talented individuals who know Trevelyan inside out, but also know their subject areas inside out. You know, if you want to have any question about curriculum or data or special educational needs or pastoral care, they are real experts in those fields. One thing that you do need to know is that we put in place this structure with me working across the two schools as a temporary measure. And there is a transition, there will be a transition, and the responsibility, just so you're all aware, the responsibility for the leadership structure going forward rests with the trustees of our trust, so Pioneer Educational Trust, and that responsibility is that then they're accountable, but they delegate that responsibility to the executive leaders and the paying conditions trustees. They will be working over the course of this this term, the autumn term, to work with me and the senior leadership team to evaluate the structures, to look at the future. They know what my vision for education is, and we're completely aligned as a team. And then they will decide the strategy for any recruitment or any changes going forward, and they'll make that decision starting January and going up to Easter. So just so you know, if there is a change, and there might not be a change, if there is a change, then that will happen at that point. And at that point, we'll then be informing families about what that structure will look like. But regardless, whether it's me continuing to lead the school, I will still be in some way working with the senior leadership team that we're here with today to make sure that the journey from where the school is now continues to grow and be enhanced. And the journey of Trevelyan, anybody who's tracked it locally and over the last few years, I've certainly been involved in as a head teacher with Pioneer. This is my 4th September. The journey of that has been a real fantastic one, and we're so proud of the all of the things that we've achieved as a school, but also that was validated by Ofsted last academic year. And you probably saw from the Ofsted report that the school was evaluated as a good school with a really good quality of education and good leadership and management, but outstanding in pupils' behaviours and attitudes, and also outstanding in that personal development. And you've been hearing all the reasons why. You've been hearing about the curriculum offer, you've been hearing about the pastoral care, you've been hearing about all the opportunities beyond and within the classroom that enabled that to happen. And our job as senior leaders is now to make that even better and progress to make the school outstanding in every area. And that's what I'm working with the senior team to do.
Thank you, Mr. Pritchard. Okay, so we'll now begin to work our way through some of the questions that have come in. So we have a question on how many children are in each class. So roughly we'll say 30 children in each class due to our year group numbers at being 150, and we're 5 form entry. However, in year 6 we do take a slightly different approach to our groups in maths, which means that in those classes they can have a slightly reduced number within each class. Okay, a lovely question here of can twins be in the same class? What we would say to this is that we would do this on an individual basis. So for many different reasons, this would be a discussion that we would have with you, and we'd talk this through and come up with the best way to go forward.
Certainly, speaking as a twin, when I was in school, I didn't want to be with my twin sister, but I know that every child is unique. I know that Mr. Murdoch has twins too, and I know that they would make decisions as well. We'll always work in partnership with families. And like I said before, the partnership working is really, I think, when pupils, when teachers and when parents work in partnership, that genuinely is when schools and when the child themselves become seriously successful. And that partnership working, that example, that answer about twins is exactly the approach that happens at Trevelyan.
Thank you. A question on whether the SENCO is a full-time member of staff. Yes, the SENCO is a full-time member of staff. Mr. Day, would you like to say anything about the provision from the SENCO?
Yeah, I think it's just to say we have our SENCO. We're also supported by as Mr. Pritchard's talked about, the trust. We also have a trust inclusion lead as well, who is a trained SENCO and many years of experience. And she is actually with us in Trevelyan as one of the trust's biggest schools. She's with us 2 days a week, providing excellent advice and support. And as I said before, we also have skilled pastoral managers dealing with the social and emotional needs. So they're in very safe hands in all of those areas.
Thank you, Mr. Day. Okay, so what is the standard school day, and do we finish early on one day of the week, which I think has been covered? Yes, on the Wednesday we finish at 2:15, and do we offer school wraparound care options? So the standard school day begins with a form time activity with the tutor, where we focus on pastoral activities, focusing on looking at our well-being and our mental health, covering our values as a school and working through those together, particularly focusing on our social and emotional learning currently at the moment during this term. We then move forward into our academic lessons and our creative lessons as well. And we have 5 lessons throughout the day, followed by a break and a lunch. And then we would normally, in normal circumstances, offer extracurricular activities after school and at lunchtime on most days. So, Mr. Murdoch, would you like to talk a little bit about the wraparound care options of what would likely be in place in September?
So at the moment, as I mentioned earlier, and as we've mentioned, we're in exceptional circumstances. So it's very difficult to say at the moment what we are able to do. At present, we do have a provision for Year 6 on a Wednesday afternoon. And we also have provision for Year 5, and that's through our work with the Windsor Sports Partnership. So that is currently where we are at the moment. We are watching extremely carefully with what's happening nationally and globally, and we are being responsive as you would expect to make sure that we make the best decisions for us. So when the time is right, and we're able to, we will be able to provide some of those fantastic opportunities that we have done in the past.
Excellent, thank you, Mr. Murdoch. So questions come through with what after school care did we provide before COVID? So an example of that is a great question. An example of that would be our after school club that would run. So on our Wednesdays where we finish at 2:15, our after school club would continue until 3:15, and there we would offer some of the music provision that I've mentioned earlier, as in Rockademy and Rocksteady. Some of those groups continue to run. We have I think it's called a Whiz Bang Wallop Science Club. I always get the name wrong. It's Whiz Bang Pop or Whiz Bang Wallop, but it's a science club that's absolutely fantastic, and it's completely focused on science experiments, which is absolutely wonderful. I often pop along to those myself. So we have art, we have DT clubs, we have lots of sporting clubs as well, as we've mentioned earlier, lots of multi-sport type activities, frisbee, you name it, that we make sure that we put it on, and we would run those on most days. Okay. Do we teach Shakespeare? So this one is perfect for Mr. Day. So Mr. Day, would you like to answer this one?
Yeah, we absolutely do teach Shakespeare, and we don't wait till Key Stage 3 to get to it. We start with Henry V in Year 5, we do Twelfth Night, we did that in lockdown, in fact, Twelfth Night for Year 6, and we do The Tempest, we do a range of Shakespeare. But do you know what? Our English curriculum is much more than just Shakespeare, and something we try and do is make it really relevant to the modern world we're living in, and we like to really be very pioneering in our English department, as we are in all our departments. So for example, we have units on everything from vlogging. We have a unit where we take inspiration from very modern art. And one of the beautiful things about our English curriculum is it's constantly trying to better itself. And this year, for example, the department is placing a focus on diversity and the diversity of its authors. So it's an exciting place. Shakespeare is very exciting, but that's only one part of it.
Thank you, Mr. Day. Okay. Right, so let's continue with our questions. So is Homework Club still available? Yes, it is available, but currently we're needing to monitor how we run that for particular bubbles. So for example, we have to follow strict government guidance in how we run our clubs. Therefore, there will be prioritised to year group order currently at the moment. The school day starts at 8:40, where we begin our form time. Do we have any tech clubs? That's a fantastic question. Yes, we do. And Mr. Timon, our technology teacher, he runs the club where he focuses on I've forgotten the word, upcycling, where he will use different types of things to create a whole range of things. So last year we had lampshades made out of a euphonium or a trombone a CD shelf. And he does all of that through his clubs and through donations from very kind parents such as yourselves. And so that is a fantastic club. A computing club also runs. So if we mean tech as in techie things. We run a computer club as well, which looks into coding and creating roamers and different robotics and so on. So yes, home time is 3:15, and I believe our last question is regarding the hours of homework set throughout the week and what does this look like. So I'm going to hand to Mr. Day for this one. Okay.
Yes, so we do set homework every week, and our approach is we set slightly less in Key Stage 2 and slightly more in Key Stage 3. And we set maths and English and science every week in both key stages. But on top of that, we also expect and really encourage half an hour at least of reading. The foundation subjects, the other subjects, they also rotate their homework, so they've got that as well. And something really exciting at the moment is our homework is moving online through the technology investment that we've placed. So that is our homework provision.
Thank you, Mr. Day. So to conclude, I'd like to hand back to our executive head teacher, Mr. Pritchard, to finish off our live Q&A. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Thank you to all of the staff that have been involved. Thank you, Ms. Lane. Thank you, Mr. Murdoch. Thank you to also Mr. Day. I'm really proud of Trevelyan Middle School. It is a fantastic place to be. And not only, you only need to visit the school, to work with the staff, to meet the children, to know how enriched their education is. It's not like any other school. It does have that added factor that I think is evident when you see really special places. And I'm really proud to be leading the school at the moment, and I'm really proud of all the achievements in the school. I want to say thank you to you. Thank you for your interest in our school. As you've seen, it's an oversubscribed school. It is a school that is popular, and for good reason. Not only who the children become, but their outcomes are fantastic too. And we obviously can't, I'm afraid we can't change our admissions for the next year. That bell is telling me I have to finish. We can't change the admissions. It's been published for September for your year, for September 2021. So if you have any questions around the process of the admissions, we wanted to make sure that you got all of that information. So it's on our website under admissions. And if you have any specific questions about your particular child's needs, you can always email our office. And in addition to tonight, we wanted to do something live to give you a chance to ask what you wanted, but also for us to interact when it's the thing that we love to do the most with parents. But obviously, we've also wanted to give you much more information than we've been able to. So do go on our website, do look at the presentation that I've given, giving you more information, look at the students' presentation and tour. If you're a child and you're thinking about coming to our school in year 5, then go and look at the videos for all the subjects and find out about the subjects that you love. And hopefully we have managed to give you all of the information that you need to be able to make a really important decision in your child's life. And I hope that you got a sense, a flavour of why Trevelyan is a really special school, an enriched place, and why we think that the child who does get a place in year 5 should feel really honoured and proud to do so. The last thing I would say is thank you for your interest, thank you for your questions, and thank you for taking the time this evening to be with us. If there is anything we can do in your transition to Trevelyan or indeed to middle schools, do let us know. But we do hope to be able to see you again and potentially see you and maybe your child in our wonderful Trevelyan uniform in the future. Thank you again, and we wish you all, on behalf of the staff and myself, we hope you have a fantastic evening. Thank you very much. All the very best. Bye now.